How's it going, everybody? I start all of my streams this way because it's really hard to know when you are going live because YouTube's system is pretty janky, right? I click the start button, and then it takes a little while before it actually tells me I'm live streaming. So, the first thing I want to say, if you're just tuning in, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for news videos every day at 4 p.m. Often, travel and breaking news, but usually, especially now in the winter, it's a lot of at-home stuff, news and analysis. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Timcast, and also hit the thumbs up button, because liking the video really helps. Today, I plan on talking about the Twitter Purge, which some of you might be familiar with, social justice in media and Star Wars. And social justice in media and Star Wars kind of the same thing. And now I'm going to put out a tweet real quick, and then let's get started. So for those that are just hopping in, you're probably aware that Twitter purged a bunch of accounts, and I actually have a decent list right now. It's actually from earlier today, so it's probably not completely correct, but I just searched this. I don't know who this person on Twitter is. This is just something that I saw when I searched. So you see Jared Taylor, American Renaissance, Michael Hill, League of the South, Hunter Wallace, Based Atlanta, Generation Identity, Traditional Workers Party, Matt Parrott, Britain First, Jada Franson, Paul Golding, Vanguard America, Jeff Shope. Now, this list doesn't include the American Nazi Party, which has been banned as well. So I don't think it's a surprise to anybody, but the American Nazi Party was banned today in the Purge. There you go. You can see Vice News had it 10 hours ago. Britain First. Now, this is what's particularly interesting about the Britain First stuff, right? So let's hop over here to Huffington Post. We can see Jada Franson. Donald Trump retweeted this video from her. And the whole thing was a big controversy, all right? So apparently, Donald Trump tweeted out this image from some Britain First people. Everybody was freaking out, saying, you know, it's racist, it's wrong. Some of the people depicted in the video aren't even actually Muslim. At first, when asked why Twitter did not take action and ban these videos, delete these accounts, or take any action against Donald Trump, they explained that sometimes they leave up controversial content so that it can portray both sides of a story, which was pretty shocking to most people. But sure enough, a couple days later, guess what? Twitter changed their mind. All right, Twitter essentially recanted. And we have here from TechCrunch, Twitter changes reason for not removing anti-Muslim videos retweeted by Trump. And what did it say? It's here we go. Here's from Jack. We mistakenly pointed to the wrong reason we didn't take action on the videos from earlier this week. We're still looking critically at all of our current policies and appreciate all the feedback. See our safety calendar for our plans and ship dates. And you can see that we have another post from them. Twitter safety said, to clarify, these videos are not being kept up because they are newsworthy or for public interest. Rather, these videos are permitted on Twitter based on our current media policy. Except the person who posted that, Jada Franson, was banned in today's Twitter purge. So I'm sure there were other tweets that Jada Franson had, but it's interesting to see that posting a video that is seen, at least by some news outlets, as anti-Muslim, was actually okay, that Twitter said, this is fine, okay? They issued a statement initially saying it's controversial, but we're gonna leave it up, and then came back out and said, no, we were wrong, it's actually permitted as per Twitter current policies. So what did Jada Franson do then to get banned today? All right, at this point, I'm gonna say, if you're just tuning in, again, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, but also Super Chat helps out my stream and my work. If you use a Super Chat, it's basically donations, but your comment will appear above everyone else's, and it makes it easier for me to see and read your questions. In fact, I believe the system is still currently set up. Hopefully it's working. I have Streamlabs set up so that if you donate through Super Chat, you will actually have a message appear on the screen, I'm hoping. And now I'll take some questions for you guys. Palm said this feels pre-recorded. No, it's not pre-recorded. I'm just trying to get, like, before I start getting into, like, the kind of live streamy feel of things, I wanted to do a hard, like, here's what we're doing, here's what's up, and now we can get to some questions. And also keep in mind, we're going to talk about social justice in media, because, man, I was just watching Star Trek Voyager, and boy, do I have a lot to say about that. Especially with Star Wars and these characters, and man, it was just not good. But you can also help out the stream by sharing it, tweeting it, posting it to Facebook, and just telling your friends to hop in. And if you guys have any questions, didn't Tim shave today? I did. Thanks for noticing. It's kind of obvious. I usually never shave. I shave like once every other month. Can you do super chat on an iPhone? I have no idea. Palm is a plant. Stalking Horse. Trump should post on both Twitter and Gab. Post crap on Twitter and newsworthy stuff to Gab. You know what the big problem with Gab is? When Twitter purged a bunch of accounts, most of the people who got into Gab were alt-right or right-wing. And so essentially Gab becomes an echo chamber. I like Minds.com, M-I-N-D-S, because it is pretty alternative, right? There is a bent towards the right, but it's not so bad. You still have, Abby Martin and Lee Camp on there and a lot of artists. So Minds, I find Minds to be pretty damn awesome. And I like the fact that it's decentralized to an extent. I'm not entirely sure exactly how the infrastructure works, but at least it's billed as being decentralized. It's kind of like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Patreon combined. So that's why I like it. It's kind of just easy to use. Yeah. So Twitter goes and bans these people. Richard Spencer has not been banned. Laura Loomer, Tommy Robinson, the people who had their verification removed haven't been banned. And I believe the American Renaissance, which was Jared Taylor's publication, was verified and was banned. So it's hard to understand exactly what Twitter's doing. And I gotta say, I tweeted this out. Actually, I'll just pull up the actual tweet. Actually, I'll pull up the tweet for you guys. Twitter's playing a dangerous game. There is no way they can enforce this with over 300 million accounts. They've banned several people already, but convicted child predators and violent extremists remain on the platform. No doubt, people will take this to mean endorsement. And someone asked me, this guy Sharky Laguna said, doing nothing would be worse. But my question is, how is removing a handful of alt-right and white nationalist accounts making things better? They haven't even removed the worst of them, let alone convicted child rapists and actual terrorists. Yes, I like bringing this up every single time because this guy, Ian Watkins, is verified. Granted, he's in prison, but this guy's verified. 36,000 followers. Active account. I mean, he hasn't tweeted since November because he's in prison for child rape. But it's like Twitter doesn't care that this person's on their platform, right? Or Kevin Spacey or Harvey Weinstein. In fact, I mean, if we're gonna go that far, they haven't got rid of Jason Kessler, Richard Spencer for that matter, but they get rid of Jared Taylor and the Traditional Workers' Party and the American Nazi Party. Here's what I find particularly alarming about these specific accounts, right? I can understand that Twitter's like, these individuals have done these things, and that's why we're going to ban these individuals. But when you're banning political parties, as abhorrent as they might be, some of them, it's a really double-edged sword, I gotta say, because goddamn, yeah, right? The American Nazi Party, that's pretty damn crazy. Like, sure, part of me, there's this emotional reaction where it's like, good God, get them off Twitter, right? We look at the history of Nazis and we're just like, yeah, none of that. Like, these are actual Nazis, right? Neo-Nazis and actual Nazis. We're not talking about the fake Nazi where the left calls everyone a Nazi. We're talking about the actual American Nazi Party. But there is a part of you that is concerned that Twitter has decided they can remove a political party. And the fear is simply because this is an offensive group, right? Historically, there's more people are going to agree with the decision than disagree. But what happens when they start moving into less reasonable territory? What happens when they start moving closer to the center, right? Nazis are really extreme and they got rid of them. And most people are going to shut up and be like, yeah, I kind of understand that. But what happens when a month, 2 months, a year, there's another group that's not as extreme, but still far right, or however you want to define it. And then Twitter says, well, you know what, they're offensive too, so let's axe them. Is it possible that we're going to face a future where Twitter decides to remove certain political parties from Twitter because they're offensive? Is being offensive wrong? Is it illegal? This is a big challenge. And I got to say, no matter what the political party is, it does worry me a little bit when major platforms with hundreds of millions of users, where the president is tweeting, starts getting rid of political parties. That's worrisome. As it pertains to the American Nazi Party, ooh, that's tough, I gotta say. Like, these, like I said before, these aren't your fake Nazis where the left is like, everyone's a Nazi. These are actual Nazis. So we got a couple super chats. Have you tried YouNow.com? I have used YouNow, but I don't find it to be all that effective. Ella Kyrios, thank you for the super chat. So it looks like Streamlabs isn't working, which is kind of a bummer. Let me see if I can I can fix this. For whatever reason, I guess I got to do it per... I got to change it for every different stream. But I think I can do this pretty easily. Wait. That didn't change anything. But for some reason, it's not working. All right, well, that's a bummer. I can't say I didn't try. Got another super chat. AJ1218, thank you for the super chat. No comments, though, but... Twitter needs to give the time. Your criticism about Star Wars is weak. There have been tropes since the beginning of the Star Wars series in the 70s. You snowflake. Are you talking to me or are you talking to somebody else? I can't tell if you're chatting with other people. But oh man, have I got some hardcore criticism for Star Wars. Before we can always bounce back to some of these other subjects, but I just want to say, as it pertains to the Twitter purge, Twitter has said that even, I don't know if you guys watched my video from earlier today, but if you haven't, you should check it out. They've said that celebrating acts of violence is a bannable offense, that you'll get a warning, you got to delete the tweets, and if you keep doing it, you will be banned. Okay? This is fairly alarming. The prosecution in Washington, D.C. for the J20 group, or I should say the judge, threw out incitement to riot based on individuals celebrating. Because they said simply, essentially, this is what one of the activists are saying, that enthusiasm for an event is not incitement. And a judge said something to that effect, that simply because someone is cheering and wooing doesn't mean they're directly telling people to do anything. Twitter disagrees. Twitter believes that to an extent, celebrating violence could encourage people to engage in that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to the Antifa members, or I shouldn't say members, but Antifa affiliated groups and members of specific Antifa sects, how Twitter will respond to these individuals. Observer 101 says, Twitter will slowly fade into oblivion once Trump is no longer president. Yeah, people have mentioned Trump going on Gab, but as I said, Gab's kind of an echo chamber, and if Trump went on that platform, it would not be good for him. And the big challenge is Twitter is the public square right now. There are a lot of people who have been banned from Twitter, and they don't know what's going on. Like, I talked to some friends of mine, higher profile individuals who have been removed, and they say flat out, like, I don't even know what anyone's talking about. Granted, I think Twitter is a vile wasteland of just, it's how do I say it other than it's just hate, right? When the left says they want to police hate on Twitter, they just create more of it. There is so much hate on this platform. Literally, left and the right are just flinging mud at each other. It's basically like someone took YouTube comments and made an entire website dedicated just to that. It's terrible. Facebook's not even that bad. And I think the reason Facebook's not as bad is because, to an extent, you have to curate your following. Like, you have to agree to allow people to be your friend and stuff. So when I see posts on Facebook, you know, these are people who have like, I've agreed to accept as friends, so it's not as bad. Venator Lich, I think there's too much scaremongering over net neutrality. The internet wasn't in the dark ages before 2015. Good seeing you live stream again, Tim. Thank you for the super chat. I certainly agree. I think there's a lot of scaremongering over net neutrality, but I think there's a lot of issues with net neutrality. I don't want to get into that yet. Maybe if we have time at the end, we can talk about net neutrality. But from here, as we talk about... Someone says, I originally included the words Twitter will die a slow death, but Super Chat wouldn't allow me to send. Oh, that kind of sucks. Let's move from the Twitter purge into social justice in media, and this particularly has to do with Star Wars, because there's been a lot of criticism. AJ1218, thank you for the Super Chat. So, look, Twitter isn't banning people in Antifa or the Communist Party, right? Actually, let's double check that right now. Taking all bets. Did Twitter get rid of the American Communist Party? Is there even an American Communist Party? Let's see what comes up. Nope, there isn't one. And it seems like, for the most part, people are just calling the Democrats the American Communist Party. So, I don't think... Let's see if we just try Communist Party. Oh, is it British? Yeah, so here's the Britain Communist Party. Hey, they're all right. Communism's okay, guys. Like, I understand that 100 million people? How many people was it? Who were killed under oh, no, it's more than that. There's we'll just you guys who are watching, you guys know how many people were killed in communism. So it looks like to a certain extent communism's okay, which is, look, I to hell with all of the political extremes. But the point is, I think it's been apparent to everybody that Twitter has a political leaning. They target the right and not the left. And there are certainly people on the right who are worse than some people on the left. And there are certainly some really crazy people on the left that are still on Twitter who have advocated for violence. In fact, today, I don't want to pull anything up because I don't want Twitter to accuse me of brigading or anything like that. But someone flat out said, I will shut down your peaceful protests and, like smash Whitey and destroy your businesses. And Twitter said, I reported this tweet. I was like, it was a direct response to me. And I was like, you know what, man? All right, Twitter, enforce this. And what did Twitter say? This is not a violation of their policies. So again, I don't want to share the information on the Twitter, but I mean, you understand, you can just search for this on Twitter and you'll see tons of stuff. In fact, I could probably just do that right now. I wonder what happened if I type here. There's actually, all right. Oh, that's actually, there's actually someone named @HateWhitePeople. I don't even know what that is. All right, but you get the point, right? We all understand this. So anyway, let's we'll move to some of the comments for a second. At least 60 million, but could be 100 million. Thing is, people don't really know, and people who say they do have an exact number. They are full of it. Yeah. So someone also mentions an editor of BuzzFeed tweeted that all they wanted for Christmas was full communism. So yeah, a lot of people died under communism. And I think both political extremes are really, really bad. Man, tell that to my Ukrainian friends. Someone says, is BAM still up? I have not gone on Twitter for obvious reasons. So BAM is By Any Means Necessary. And they are an extremist group in the Bay in the Bay Area. So let's try BAM. Maybe. Yep, here we go. Certainly BAM is still up. Now, for those that are not aware, BAM is a group. It's called the Coalition to Defend Affirmative Action, Integration, and Immigrant Rights, and Fight for Equality by Any Means Necessary. And they go by BAM, okay? Now, there's videos of their leader, I guess you'd call it, Yvette Falarka, punching a man in the streets, and she was actually arrested for this. This is a group that advocates violence against civilians to push their political cause. And who's this guy? Justin Whedon. So he's an Occupy Wall Street guy who follows him, apparently. BAM has not been banned. So the Twitter purge is fake news. They're not really purging anything. They're just getting rid of right-wing accounts. The Red Elephant says, I have a thread pinned with 250 verified accounts that either say genocide whites or white people should be exterminated. Wow. Calling for the genocide of a race. You'd think you'd get banned for that. But I think most people who pay attention to politics understand that Twitter is not going to take any action against the left or these individuals who say these things. What do you expect? There have been a few small cases where Twitter has, but for the most part, nah. So let's take an opportunity to talk about social justice in media. First, let me just say, I see a lot of people complain about diversity casting, and that kind of annoys me because I really don't care about diversity casting. I don't care if a character is white, black, Latino, Asian, male, female, transgender. I really don't care. Is the character good? Are their motivations good? Do we get to feel and empathize with the character? Do they make us feel something? Do they go on a journey? All right? That's all that matters. I watched Star Wars The Last Jedi. Absolutely hate it. And it's not because of diversity casting. In fact, I actually, to an extent, like diversity casting. I think it's great that media companies are now recognizing, hey man, like America's got more than one demographic. We can certainly cast in these directions. The problem is the characters are dumb. Rose, all right? How many of you guys want spoilers? Because I kind of want to talk about some spoilers for a bit. I'll try and be light and won't go crazy on spoilers because I understand it's only been one weekend. But the character Rose is an Asian mechanic/engineer who just magically solves. She understands how hyperspace tracking could work, even though it was thought to be impossible. And it turns out she's right. Okay, like, come on, man. Does the Asian character have to be the mechanical genius who understands how to solve these problems? Does she have to have stupid one-liners? Does she have to say what she feels nonstop? Can we just have her act in a way so we can understand how she feels and we can understand and empathize with what her motivations are? No, she has to just flat out say exactly how she feels and what she's doing. And there are a ton of really awful lines in that movie. They shoehorn in new characters for no reason. Rose and Vice Admiral Holdo, people we've never met before and we have no reason to care about. And it's not just that. I understand that, you can make a movie, you can have characters, and we can learn to care about them. But what you need to understand about Star Wars is that there are 7 movies predating this movie, okay? When the first Star Wars came out, and I mean Episode 4, back in the 70s, there were a lot of unanswered questions. Who's the Emperor? What is the Empire? Why is the Empire? Who is Darth Vader? And a lot of people didn't care. So now we have these questions of, like, who is Snoke and who are these characters, and people care. But the thing is, that back then the movie was new, and you took it for what it was. The Last Jedi is supposed to help us understand this world where it's gone. Coco Forkosh says, trash that movie. Gug says, green soy milk for Luke. I don't know what that is about. But, okay, so look. Holdo, the Vice Admiral, is a lot of people have accused Holdo and Rose of being diversity shoehorns. Like, they just shoved these characters in the movie and they shouldn't have been in there. People complain about the leadership of the Resistance being all female and that Poe was a hot-headed guy who didn't trust the woman who was in charge and turned out to be wrong. And I understand that, but I disagree. That's not the problem. It doesn't matter that they made these characters. It doesn't matter that Rose is Asian, an Asian female. It doesn't matter that Holdo's a woman. It matters that the characters suck. It matters that they... Look, if you wanna make a diversity cast and you wanna put a specific race, gender, identity in the movie, do it for sure. Just write a good character, okay? I am a science fiction and fantasy fan. I am a gaming fan. Look, I got my Magic the Gathering right here. I've been playing games for a long time. And let me just say, growing up with Star Trek, I'm confused as to why these movies have shoehorned in diversity characters when they haven't had to in the past. I just was watching Star Trek Voyager. You know who the captain of Voyager is? Catherine Janeway. And she is my second favorite Star Trek commander. Captain Picard is my first. And that's mostly just because The Next Generation is such an amazing show. Voyager is also a really, really good show. And I like Picard because he's like a stoic, but Janeway is strong and obstinate, and man, you know what shows I really hate? I really hate shows where the main characters are pathetic and they can't accomplish anything. And that's one of the things I hated about Star Wars The Last Jedi. Poe is an idiot. Finn and Rose were both idiots. They failed at their mission. Why should I care about these characters who are bad at what they do and actually got people killed? I don't want to relate or care about these characters. They sucked. They're not people I want to look up to or aspire to be like. Ella Kyrios, thank you for the super chat. When I watch the original Star Wars, Luke is a nobody. And it turns out that if he trains in the Force, he can become a hero. And that's what happens at the end. He's a hero. Han Solo is a dirtbag who decides, you know what, maybe I can actually be a good person and help the Rebel Alliance. There's tales of redemption and growth and individuals who earned their place, who learned that they could be something more. And they accomplished it. They did it. They went on their journey, and they did it. But what's The Last Jedi? Poe screws everything up. He's a hothead, and he's an idiot. Vice Admiral Holdo could have just explained the plan to Poe in the first place, but what kind of leader can't inspire their officers? I blame leadership. If Poe did something wrong, it was bad leadership. You should never, as a commanding officer, push liability onto your subordinates. If something goes wrong, you should have accommodated that. Holdo knew Poe was a hothead. She knew he was going to disobey orders, and she should have taken action. She could have explained to him there was a plan and to fall in line, or she could have thrown him in the brig. Either way, she did nothing but insult him and created huge problems. And then Poe, being an idiot, gets everybody killed, and then Rose and Finn go on this adventure that literally doesn't matter, where they free some space horses for some reason, and that just wasted my time. And then they have these really awful one-liners. Tell me, why do I want to watch a movie about characters that can't accomplish anything? After I watch it, I'm like, wow, Finn, Rose, Poe, and Rey, they're all really bad at what they do. For some reason, Rey's a god. I don't get that. She didn't earn any of that. There's no growth there. That movie was terrible, I gotta say. You know what? Whatever. Let's get back to the point at hand. Deep Space Nine, Star Trek. You guys might not be fans of Star Trek, but I am a huge Star Trek fan because Star Trek deals with issues of philosophy and the consequences of technological advancement. They deal with issues of social justice as a progressed society might deal with them. There's an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where they have a hearing to determine whether or not Data the android is life and whether or not he has rights that are granted to sentient beings. It's amazing. And Sisko, who runs the space station Deep Space Nine, is a black man, and that doesn't matter. He was just a brilliant leader who inspired people and got the job done. Catherine Janeway, a woman, doesn't matter. She was amazing. Dude, what I love the most about Star Trek Voyager is that they're time and time again presented with a bargain. Someone, like recently, in one of the episodes I was watching, there's bounty hunters that flat out say to Catherine Janeway, surrender, and we're going to sell off your ship, and you'll be able to live on some planet. Like, you're done. We won. And she says, no, we're going to shoot you. But they're in a gas cloud. And if she fires her phasers, they're going to ignite the gas cloud, killing everybody. And so the bounty hunter's like, you wouldn't do that. You'd kill everyone. And she goes, you left me no choice. Arm weapons. And I was like, oh, that is amazing. I love the fact that she's like, I would rather blow all of us up than surrender. She was a strong character. But then when I watch these movies like Ghostbusters, where they try and do this shoehorn social justice, it actually makes it worse. We didn't have to pander. We didn't have to create characters that pandered to a political demographic. We were just like, all right, we're going to do a captain of Star Trek, and it's Catherine Janeway. Here's her backstory. She's a hard-headed, strong. She's a smart leader. She's crafty, and she's going to inspire her commander, her officers, and her crewmen. Great. The show was awesome. But now we have these movies that just shoehorn in the social justice, and it actually is damaging, in my opinion. I actually, to a certain extent, take offense at the character Rose in Star Trek The Last Jedi. Because so many people are now saying, isn't it great to see a female Asian lead? One of the things that we don't see a lot is there's an underrepresentation of Asian characters, especially Asian females. And I think this was an attempt to alleviate that to a degree. But when you make the character stupid, it's worse. Because now not only do we have a shortage of female Asian role models, the ones we get are really dumb. Like, really dumb. But strangely, Rose is supposed to be like a technological genius, which is also kind of frustrating, but then she just does really dumb stuff. Super chat here from Valkyrie Regalia. Picking people based on what they are leads to bad picks. Merit is all that should matter, regardless of their race, sex, gender, sexuality. Well, for sure. But I understand when it comes to media, right? If you only ever have white characters, then you have to imagine how that feels to someone who grows up as a mixed race person, as an Asian person, Black, Latino, when the only role models they ever see are white people. So it makes sense. This is why I actually, to an extent, like diversity casting, only insofar as the characters are strong. If you want to cast a character, if you write a character named John Doe, and John Doe can do all these great things, and you say we want to find a good character who is Black or Latino or Asian, I don't care, so long as the character was written first and it's a good character. But they're doing the opposite. They're going, we want to add an Asian female to this movie. What should we do? We can make a mechanic, an engineer. Oh, that's not racist. And then what do they do? Her plot doesn't matter, and she screws everything up. It's really frustrating for them to be like, we finally got an Asian female lead. Yeah, who got thousands of people killed and was essentially, I don't know how I should say it, but you could technically say that Finn, Rose, and Poe are the bad guys. Because if they just didn't do anything, if they just sat there sipping coffee for the whole movie, nobody would have died. Or for some reason, the ships that ran out of gas and then encountered friction in space would have died, because that makes sense somehow. But I digress. Because of Poe, because of Finn, because of Rose, thousands of Resistance fighters were killed. That is not inspiring. That is detrimental. Sure, they made a female Asian lead who got everyone killed. That is the opposite of inspirational. That's more like saying, hey kids, don't be like this person. How are we supposed to look up to that? That sucks. All right, let's look at some comments. Subject Change says, Tim, you're an Asian who walks around with cameras all day. That certainly is. I moved to Chile, Tim. I don't give a that there are only Latinos on TV. Right. Look, it's one thing if you're an adult and you don't care. But there are kids that, when they grow up, they don't see themselves. They don't feel like they are. It's an issue of, I want people to feel independent and confident. I want somebody to grow up and be like, I can be a superhero too. And that's why I don't mind. I actually, like I said, I like diversity casting to an extent. Proportional to maybe what the races are in the country, or, in an instance to make sure that there's representation of a specific demographic, totally fine. So long as the character is already written. You write a good character, you cast it, right? So Catherine Janeway, there was a different actress who was originally going to play this captain, but couldn't commit to the television interviews and the schedule required for a TV show, and so a different actress came in and portrayed Catherine Janeway. It didn't matter who the person was. Granted, the character was written as a woman. Dude Guy McPants. I will say I very much enjoyed a FTL ship used as a weapon. Beautiful shot, though it didn't feel like a Star Wars film. All right, let's nerd out for a second. Star Wars does not have light speed travel. Does not, okay? Star Wars lore has hyperspace. Okay, hyperspace is different from light speed. Now, technically, hyperspace is a form of faster than light travel, often abbreviated as FTL. But why this doesn't make sense? Okay, first, look, if you could take a ship and send it to light speed and use it to blow something up, why didn't they just take a bunch of empty freighters and light speed them through the Death Star? It's a weapon of mass destruction at that point. It would have been easy for the rebels to say, well, there's a giant military base. Let's just take these 5 empty freighters and remote warp them through the Death Star core, and the whole thing will blow up. So they essentially retconned space combat. They added gravity. Now, there's a scene where they actually drop bombs in space. Like, they actually fall. According to the new lore, they're magnetized, sure. But that doesn't excuse the scene where when the ships are all moving and they run out of fuel, it starts drifting up and backwards. There's no friction in space. It would just keep going forward. God, that movie was so awful. And it's not just, look, I can be a nerd and say the physics made no sense. The lore was just retconned. Lightspeed travel isn't a thing in Star Wars. They use hyperspace, which is when the ships travel through a sub-dimension. It's a separate dimension of space that allows them to move from one point to another, almost like a tesseract. I'm not a big expert on it, but this is like the established lore. So when I see these things broken up, I'm like, it's not a Star Wars movie. More to the point, though, the writing was terrible. They shoehorned in characters. Everybody was just saying exactly what they thought and felt. There is a scene, all right? Full-on spoiler alert. There's a scene where you have hundreds of stormtroopers. Hundreds. It matters for the plot. The main characters are captured. Hundreds of stormtroopers. Phasma, the chrome stormtrooper lady, orders their execution, literally standing right next to them. The faster-than-light weapon, the ship crashes into the dreadnought. Then it shows the same ship. All the stormtroopers are gone. They're all gone. Poof. It's disappeared. But Finn's okay, and he's standing there like normal. And Phasma, who was just standing next to him, is now all of a sudden on the other side of the ship. The movie sucked. The writing was bad. The continuity was all over the place. It's literally a movie about a slow motion pursuit by 2 micro factions that don't matter to the actual galaxy. Right? The First Order is like almost gone, and now you have the Resistance, which is almost gone. And it looks like from the casino scene, most of the galaxy is like, who are these people? They don't even matter. Anyway, I could keep ranting, but let's hop into the comments. Make sure I hit Bangs Naughty Bits Super Chat said Avery Brooks directed DS9 episode Beyond the Stars and played Benny. Pure social justice, and I loved it. They have done such amazing stuff with Star Trek and dealing with issues of social justice. Wow. And it's not shoehorned, it's intellectual, it's philosophical. They give you a real debate, and it makes you go, wow, that's brilliant. I understand that. And now what they're doing is they're just like, hey, people want social justice. Let's write, a non-hetero, non-cis, Latino, Asian, mixed race, trans person, and then make them say things about their identity and make that an issue. And it's like, can't we have characters who are these things, but the story isn't about these issues? Dude, Guy McPan says, thank you, my point exactly. It was a beautiful shot, but a ship in hyperspace should have only interacted with the mass shadow of the ship in hyperspace. Also, the Earth insult of Chrome seemed off. And there's some fourth wall breaks in the movie. Luke Skywalker says laser sword. What? It was like watching Spaceballs. There was even a scene where you can see them steam pressing a suit. And I'm just like, this is a parody. I swear to God, it's a parody. I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories. Some people say that Disney wanted to try and kill off as many of the old characters as possible so they essentially bottleneck the story into this really tight space so they can rewrite everything and reestablish an entirely new Disney universe. People like the brand name Star Wars, but this is just I'm not saying this is true. This is what some people have said. The brand name Star Wars is powerful. People are going to buy tickets based off of that, but Disney doesn't like any of the original storytelling. So they kill everybody, all right? Retcon a bunch of the important things like Rey, like the Force can be used by anybody at any time for any reason, and Rey's got godlike powers, and that's cool. And Kylo Ren, for some reason, is a bad guy, but who cares? Snoke, who's that guy? We don't know. Everybody's dead. Everybody died. And now they're going to start over with Episode 9. I went to go see The Last Jedi because it's Star Wars. And the only reason I didn't walk out of the theater halfway through is because it's Star Wars. And I knew it was going to be culturally relevant, and I said I should at least watch it so that I can talk about the things I don't like about it. But keep in mind, The Force Awakens sold as many tickets as it did because of the original Star Wars. And The Last Jedi, the same thing is true. Did you know that The Last Jedi is the second biggest opening, second to The Force Awakens? What does that mean? The Force Awakens sold tickets potentially. This is my opinion. I believe The Force Awakens sold tickets off the strength of Star Wars. That's why the opening was so big. But people did not like the movie. Original fans didn't like the movie. The movie wasn't bad, but it was essentially a shot-for-shot remake of A New Hope, just with the same characters acting like it was a sequel and not a remake. But a lot of people didn't like it. So, those people who didn't like it did not go see The Last Jedi. I will not go see Episode 9. Look, I'm not even kidding. I don't understand how people actually liked that movie. I really don't. Because I'm watching people disappear, I'm watching people teleport. There's a scene, okay. Finn, after getting thousands of people killed, decides he's going to sacrifice himself to blow up a Death Star, a miniaturized Death Star weapon that is going to, let's just say, it would result in the death of all of his friends. So he's like, I'm going to crash into this thing and blow it up. They're in land speeders, and Rose is also in a land speeder. Well, they turn away, and they say, Finn, break away, you're going to die. But Finn keeps going straight. And then right before Finn crashes, somehow Rose looped all the way around, going top speed, and slams into Finn. And then he's like, what did you do? And she's like, I saved you, dummy. And I'm like, oh, cringe. Oh, God, I saved you? And then she says probably the most annoying thing I've ever heard. We're not going to win the war by fighting what we hate. We're going to win the war by saving what we love. What? When I heard that, I was like, what do you think Finn was doing? He wasn't killing somebody. He was literally trying to destroy a weapon, not kill a person. He wasn't fighting something he hated. He was trying to save what he loved. That was the stupidest line in the whole movie. Second only to, we will be the spark that lights the fire that burns the First Order down. I don't even know or care who the First Order is. They're not the Galactic Empire, right? In the original Star Wars movie, there was a Galactic Empire. And I was like, wow, they're controlling the galaxy. Now the First Order is just this rogue group of assholes in big ships with guns. What do I care? Anyway. Coward Liberia said, quote, if you kill your enemies, they win. I believe that was a Justin Trudeau quote. My God, that quote is so dumb. Look, if you kill your enemies, they win. Let me actually pull this up. My word. I believe this is a real quote, right? I don't want to say it's true simply because there's a bunch of meme photos of it, but if you kill your enemies, they win. Thank you, Justin Trudeau. That's very profound of you to... Here we go. Let's see. This is a fake quote. Canada has it. All right, here you go. Fact check. I always want to make sure I fact check because I don't know if I believe it. This is a fake quote, has been attributed to Trudeau by those from a certain political spectrum, but there is zero evidence he ever said it, at least to me. Let's see here. We got Pocket Puppy said, it's a gross paraphrase of a part of a speech Trudeau gave on ending Canadian airstrikes in Syria. The actual quote is this: call us old-fashioned, but we think that we ought to avoid doing precisely what our enemies want us to do. They want us to elevate them, to give in to fear, to indulge in hatred, to eye one another with suspicion, and to take leave of our faculties. So this is a fake quote, and I think that's exactly what my work is all about. You heard it here, all right? I Googled it, and someone on Reddit with a post that has 8 points claims it's fake. Not the best fact-checking in the world, but I feel like even when someone said it, I wasn't 100% sure it was a real quote, because it's just a meme photo I've seen bouncing around. Tim, tell us about the horses. The horses in The Last Jedi, they were like kangaroo horse donkeys or something. I guess donkeys and horses are close enough, but it was like kangaroo horses or something. And it was this weird thing where like Rose was like the 1% are bad. There were so many missed opportunities with that movie. Oh my God, Luke Skywalker, what a loser. That ruined, man. You know, Luke Skywalker was this kid who was like a nobody farmer, and he was thrust into the rebellion where he saved the princess. And that's why it was amazing. It was like, wow, you can be nobody, but if you just believe in yourself, you can save the princess too. Like, you can matter, right? And then he goes on this journey where eventually he brings back the Jedi. Return of the Jedi. There he is, front flipping around, saving the princess from Jabba the Hutt and doing all this great stuff. And then when it comes to the Emperor, he refuses to indulge the dark side. He throws the lightsaber down and says, no. And the Emperor is like, I'm going to electrocute you. And then Darth Vader's like, my son, and throws the Emperor down a pit. Luke Skywalker was the dude who refused to draw his saber and fight and said, I would rather die than indulge the dark side. And then, like 20 some odd years, 30 years later, he decides, I'm going to go kill this kid who's sleeping in his bed. Look, we're beyond spoilers at this point. Basically, Luke Skywalker attempted to kill Ben Solo in his sleep. You want me to believe that Luke Skywalker, the guy who refused to indulge the dark side, decided he was going to assassinate some child in his sleep? What is he, Anakin? Like father, like son, I guess. That just killed the character. Luke was a dude who rose up and was amazing. And you know what? I think it's safe to say Mark Hamill agrees. There are a ton of videos, a collection of quotes from Mark Hamill where he's like, who is this guy? How did the most hopeful kid in the galaxy become this recluse, this hermit, who believes that Jedi should be ended? What is going on? Justin Forrest, thanks for the super chat. He says, if you let your enemies screw your wife, you win. Well, I don't know about that, but who the F goes to a Star Wars movie to see Rose and Finn free horses at a casino? I gotta say, I kind of agree with that. Move on, please. Well, let me know what you guys want to talk about. We can go back to the Twitter purge. We can talk a little bit about net neutrality. The last Gogeta says, this is like Sadiq Khan's terrorism is part and parcel of being in a big city. That is also false. That is true. That is a misquote. Okay? Let's pull up the real quote. It's a misquote, but it's not entirely false. It's just out of context. So let's look at The Guardian here. Can we see what the exact quote is? Here we go. Khan actually said in September was, part and parcel of living in a great global city is you've got to be prepared for these things. You've got to be vigilant. You've got to support the police doing an incredibly hard job. We must never accept terrorists being successful. We must never accept that terrorists can destroy our life or destroy the way we lead our lives. That is fake news. Part and parcel living in a big city accepting terrorists. That's not a fake quote. He's actually saying we must never accept terrorists being successful. We must never accept that terrorists can destroy our life or destroy the way we lead our lives. What he said was part and parcel of living in a great city, great global city. You've got to be prepared for these things. And he's totally right. Absolutely right. You do have to be prepared for these things. And it sucks because we don't want to have to deal with these issues. But I think people on the right would certainly agree with him in this regard that we should have security. We don't want to give up freedom for security. There's a trade-off, right? We want to meet kind of in the middle where we have our freedom, but we have a little bit of security. You don't want to just have totally open borders with no security, but you're free to do whatever you want. That's bad. And we don't have the opposite where everything's locked down and you're free to do nothing, but sure, you won't die. There's got to be a mix. Got a super chat here from Pacific the Casual Gamer. Never understood journalism until I found you, Tim. Hey, thanks, man. I never wanted to be a journalist. That wasn't ever my intent. But it's interesting to me that so many news organizations suck. Amtrak derailment. Is there more to the story? Will we ever find out? So I've been seeing a lot of tweets from people on the right about the Amtrak derailment where people are saying, also, Kevin, thanks for the super chat. People are saying, look, Antifa talked about derailing trains and pouring concrete on tracks on the website It's Going Down. They did. That's true. I don't see why. Look, I get why people are bringing it up now. It's partisan, it's tribalism, and there's a point to be made. Antifa has openly advocated for industrial sabotage. On It's Going Down, there was an article written by some people who actually sabotaged train tracks. They claimed they poured concrete on them and then called the train company and let them know they did. So some people are kind of saying, maybe this was Antifa. I don't know. I'm just asking the question. But look, trains derail all the time. I think there was a train derailment in Chicago not too long ago. Let's Google it. Let's hop over to the old fact check machine. So Amtrak derailment. There was a train derailment in Newark. Was it Newark? No, I think it was Hoboken. Yeah, look at that. 2016 Hoboken train crash. Look at that photo right there. I don't know, it's kind of small, but still. Nobody accused Antifa of sabotaging the tracks in this one. That's why I think it's kind of absurd. Like, look, man, these trains crash all the time. That's kind of crazy because this is the train station that I use. That's nuts. I was here just like a couple days ago, and there's like a Dunkin' Donuts. Oh wait, I think Dunkin' Donuts is like right over here. I don't know what the store this is, but man, that is nuts. Look at that. Is there anything more to the train derailment? And let's look up this train derailment here real quick. Washington State. Oop. New York Times. No thanks. Oregon Live. Amtrak derailment occurred on highly anticipated new route. Yeah, it's just a derailment, These things happen all the time. I'm not one for lots of conspiracy theories. I'm kind of a middle of the road person on everything. Is it possible there was some foul play? Sure, but was there? I don't know. Probably not. Look, trains. Think about what it is. This giant mass, hundreds of tons of steel, hurtling down two little metal bars, and they pop off sometimes, and it sucks. Dunkachino Plus. Yes, Dunkachino Plus. I'm reading a comment. All right, let's see. Did I miss any super chats? Robert Seiler says, SW ironing clothes reference short film Hardware Wars. Eddie Truk said, I love your content and hearing you nerd out on Star Wars Galaxy stuff is amazing, especially space travel. CNN told me it was Trump's fault. Yeah, NY Post may have been something on track. Mad Max says, look, Tim, just tell us where you actually stand instead of beating around the bush. I did. I always tell you exactly where I stand. Right in the middle. It's that simple. I see people on the far left say just the stupidest nonsense, right? Lacey McCauley, who's this very open Antifa advocate, tweeted about the J20 trials, right? So this was a part of the video I did today was talking about the defendants, Antifa members who are facing trial in Washington, D.C. And I asked her, what did she think about the Muslim immigrant who had his limo destroyed and torched and the driver who was injured? To which she responded that it was that I was asking a rhetorical question meant to distract from the real issues. And I'm like, I simply asked you about what you felt about it. Nothing else there. And then someone else posted this photo. They always share this photo of me at dinner with some Trump supporters because I interviewed Baked Alaska and then went out to dinner, and this is a normal thing that journalists do, believe it or not. And sure enough, they share this photo as if it's like, oh, Tim's hanging out with these Trump supporters, oh my God. And so I always share this photo of me teaching refugee kids how to fly drones, because, like, what they do, I'm going to say this. I talked a bit about this with Sargon of Akkad. Sargon and I did this 40-minute discussion, and for whatever reason, my computer didn't record his audio, and that was brutal. It sucked. But one thing I brought up that I think is worth saying is that I think the far left, is evil. Because to me, evil is stealing. It's a combination of, like, selfishness, deceit, theft. And you have people like It's Going Down. You have people like Lacey McCauley. They know what they're doing when they lie. They know that me sitting down to dinner with Trump supporters is a normal part of journalism. But they also know that the average person will just trust them, and they can lie to them to recruit. And the more people they recruit, the more people who believe the lies they put out. They flat out lie, and they lie all the time, and to me that is evil. Then you have the far right, who for the most part are really honest about their views, to the point where you're like, I can't believe that person would say that publicly. And I'm not talking about, alt-right people who are, like, advocating for white rights. I'm talking about when you go a little further and you have the actual race realists who want an ethno-state. These people will flat out tell you what they want. Now, I don't think, I don't know, it's not so much evil because the opinions are terrible, and so long as they're not, let me preface this. I'm not talking about people who are flat out like, let's kill a particular group of people and commit genocide. That is evil for sure. But the people who are like, certain races are too stupid to do things, and I believe that I'm superior to everybody else, I'm like, well, they're being honest. And when they're honest, you can control that. You can have an honest discussion about how you should deal with a person like that. And that's acceptable, right? We're not going to let their opinions flourish. We're going to counter their opinions, and we're going to defeat their ideas because their ideas are bad. And because they're honest, it's something we can't accommodate. But the far left lies about so much. They're dishonest, disingenuous, and deceitful. It's hard to control, and they're willing to steal from you to gain power, and they also want to do really screwed up things. I mean, these people are posting things like kill white people. Like, we shouldn't kill anybody. There was a hashtag kill all men, and they thought it was a joke. Like, the feminists thought it was funny. I'm like, dude, I don't care who you're saying to kill. Stop. You shouldn't say to kill anybody. What is wrong with these people? Anyway, Super Chats. Rulo303 said, hey, Tim, 100% off topic, but what do you think of the Young Turks being called the Young Turks Love You? And Marianne B says, I appreciate your journalism and commentary. I'm more conservative than you, but I like hearing your honest take on news and other such stuff. Keep fighting the good fight. I think the Young Turks should have changed their name a long time ago, only to fit their own morals, right? If the Young Turks are the people who, I'm not sure if this is true, but actually, let me pull this up. I'm pretty sure they had a whole thing on the Redskins. Something about Cenk Uygur said that, I could be wrong. Yeah, I don't want to impugn anyone's honor if I'm incorrect here. So I'll just leave that as. I'll just say this: the Young Turks is a term that means young people who are coming and making change, and it has to do with Young Turks, right? I'm not an expert on all of this stuff, but the Young Turks are, I believe, are responsible for the Armenian genocide. And just, let's put it this way. I can just Google it, and then before I say anything that's probably wrong, we can just actually pull up. So it's also known as the Armenian Holocaust, the Ottoman government's systematic extermination of 1.5 million Armenians, mostly citizens within the Ottoman Empire. So I read about this, and let's pull up the Young Turks. So yeah, the Young Turks revolution. I'll give you the gist of it from my opinion, because I'm not an expert on this stuff, and I don't usually like to have opinions on things I'm not well read about. But if it's as bad as most people say it is, and the Armenian genocide is not something to make jokes about, the Young Turks should have changed their name a long time ago. I don't understand why they didn't. I know Cenk. I've been on the Young Turks a couple times. I understand he's a partisan. He's got his political views, and I think that's fine because I know people on the left and the right who do it, so I got no beef. But I just think if they want to remain morally consistent, they should have changed their name, and I don't see why they don't. I really don't see why they don't. Bobby says he denies the Armenian Holocaust. Actually, I believe he did, but I don't think he does now. I believe that he actually came out and apologized. So let me pull this up because there's a new one. A lot of people have accused him of this, but I'm pretty sure he said something like he wasn't familiar. Okay, here we go. This is interesting. Let me pull this up. This is Paste Magazine. Should TYT's response of choice of name affect our consumption of its political coverage? Some go so far as to claim that calling an organization the Young Turks is like calling it the Hitler Youth. For many, concerns about the name are exacerbated by the fact that Cenk Uygur, who was born in Turkey and moved to the U.S. at age 8, wrote an op-ed for his college newspaper in 1981 denying the Armenian genocide. He has since retracted those words, but not in favor of a new stance. He has instead opted to refrain from commenting. Well, let's see what this pulls up. So this is April 2016. He says, today I rescind the statements I made in the Daily Pennsylvania article from 1991 entitled Historical Fact of Falsehood. When I wrote that piece, I was a 21-year-old kid who had a lot of opinions that I have since changed. Back then, I had many political positions that were not well researched. For example, back in those days, I held pro-war rally for the Persian Gulf War. Anyone who knows me now knows that I'm a very different person today. I also rescind the statements I made in a letter to the editor I wrote in 1989 on the same issue. Back then, I had a very different perspective, and there were many things that I did not give due weight on this issue. I should have been far, far more respectful of so many people who had lost family members. Their pain is heart-wrenching and should be acknowledged by all. My mistake at the time was confusing myself for a scholar of history, which I most certainly am not. I don't want to make the same mistake again, so I'm going to refrain from commenting on the topic of Armenian genocide, which I do not know nearly enough about. Thank you for being patient with me on the issue, though I might not have always merited it. Cenk Uygur. I think that's respectable. I think he shouldn't comment on it. I think he did the right thing. He recanted those statements, and then he apologized, he said. I'm just going to read through real quick to make sure he apologized, because maybe he didn't. Okay, he didn't. He didn't apologize. He just said, I should have been far, far more respectful of so many people who had lost their family members. Their pain is heart-wrenching and should be acknowledged by all. Okay, yeah, he didn't apologize? No, he just said, today I rescind my statements. He said he made a mistake. I guess you could call this an apology. I don't think he directly apologized. He should have. But I respect him when he says he will not comment on it. Good. If you don't know anything about it, shut up. And I find that respectable. So, I take the same stance. There's not a lot. I'm not a historical expert on the Armenian genocide or anything about this. What I can say is that it looks like... Oh, wait. Never mind. Oh, no, this is from Cenk. It says TYT blog by David Kohler, but then it's signed Cenk Uygur. Whatever. Of course, he didn't apologize. Someone says he still believes it. Honestly, I think he probably does still believe it, but... Does that... Look... Are you surprised that a far-left partisan, has partisan beliefs and is going to act in certain ways? Why is that surprising to anybody? This is, you know why? I don't want to be aligned with any political group ever, because I think people are crazy. Look, I grew up on the far left. I was an anarchist when I was younger, and a bunch of kids I knew were going around and trying to beat up the racists and other stuff, and I was like, dude, why are you just starting fights and beating people up? I don't want to have anything to do with that. I saw a lot of the hypocrisy, tribalism. There were instances of, rape where they're it's always been the same way. Whenever someone commits an act of violence against another person, their tribe will defend them, be it the police, be it the activists, be it people on the right. It doesn't matter. People on the right tend to be more individualists, so I think we see less of this on, the moderate kind of right-wing people in this country. But with the left, as collectivists, they're flat out don't call the cops. Sean Rufus says, what video editing program do you recommend for starting out making vids? Thanks for all that you do. Adobe Premiere, because I think it's like $20 a month you pay like a monthly subscription to get access to the software, and it's probably the best. And if you do like $50 a month, you get the entire suite, which is what I do because I use Photoshop, After Effects, mostly just Premiere, but it's important to have a little bit of everything. And you get 2 accounts, so you can have 2 computers. Yeah. Anyway, a quick word on ETH hitting 800. Ethereum hit 800? You gotta be kidding me. Hold on. Seriously? Man. So, wow. You know, I missed the train on Bitcoin a couple times. We can talk a little bit about crypto real quick, but we're getting close to that time. We're just over an hour. Yeah, Ethereum is at $800. Oh my God. Wow. I bought Ethereum at $40. Not a lot. I think I sold it like 300. Here's the thing about crypto. There's a really funny tweet where someone said, I wish I was as smart as, something like, I wish I was as smart as people who bought Bitcoin back when its only uses were buying drugs and sex trafficking. Like, that made the most sense to me. And it's like, yeah, a lot of the people I know who are Bitcoin millionaires are anarcho-capitalists. And the reason they bought it is because they buy every non-governmental currency. There was a thing called Liberty Dollars, where some dude started making his own money, and the government shut him down. So when Bitcoin emerged, all of my libertarian and ANCAP friends were like, we gotta buy Bitcoin, and they bought a bunch, and now they're all super rich. It's interesting, but about a year ago, I bought 2 Bitcoin back when they were like 2,500 each. I took some money from my savings, bought 2 Bitcoin. I spread them around in various cryptos because, Bitcoin was not really moving. And now I've got 1 Bitcoin because I have the other Bitcoin I had was split up into different cryptocurrencies. And Bitcoin's at it's at $19,000. It is crazy. There's a lot to understand about Bitcoin. Let me just say, I'm not a financial expert. I'm not a Bitcoin expert per se. I know a lot about crypto. I've been tracking Bitcoin since early 2011. When a friend of mine advised me not to buy several thousand Bitcoin at 70 cents per coin. Yep. Would love to be able to go back in time and slap that dude in the face. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's fine. The decisions made at the time, every time I didn't or did buy Bitcoin, made the most sense. At one point in 2011, I had 20 Bitcoin. I sold it and got a couple $100. That made the most sense. Because we can't predict what is going to happen with Bitcoin. But there's been a lot of technologists who have been bullish on Bitcoin who refuse to sell simply because they understand the technology and where Bitcoin will go in the future, and that's where they're going to place their bet. And then you have the anarcho-capitalists who are just flat out like, hey man, if it's non-regulated currency, I'm going to buy it. So cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin will be regulated soon, and they're already, there's already some regulations on them. I think there's one thing to consider. A Bitcoin, any crypto, can be divided is divisible down to its 8th decimal point. There was somebody who tweeted, this economist, I don't remember who this was, but they said, Bitcoin's going to collapse because every bubble ends when the cost per unit exceeds what the average person can pay. And if Bitcoin is at $19,000 per coin, the average person cannot buy one, meaning the demand has to stop. When the demand stops, people are going to sell off quickly because they're scared of losing money. What this person is not considering is that Bitcoins can be divided to their 8th decimal point. And today, 1 Satoshi, a Satoshi is the smallest unit of Bitcoin. It's worth 1/10 of a cent. I think if people start looking at Bitcoin, not as Bitcoin, but as Satoshis, you'd realize that it is extremely cheap to buy Bitcoin right now. People say to me, what, 1 Bitcoin is $19,000? I can't afford that. I say, yes, and 1 ton of gold is also out of your purchasing, is out of your reach too, right? 1 Bitcoin doesn't mean, it's not like $1. It's a unit of measurement, and it's got 8 decimal points after it. So think about what will happen then if a Satoshi reaches $1. Or if we look at it more rationally, if 1 Satoshi becomes worth 1 cent, or the equivalent of the buying power for 1 cent, right? We're seeing 2 orders of magnitude to the purchasing power of Bitcoin, which means if that's true, if 1 Satoshi can reach 1 cent, and then we go up from there, that would mean a Bitcoin is going to be worth what I think $2 million per Bitcoin. And it's possible. If this economist is telling the truth, and Bitcoin will keep growing so long as individuals can buy into Bitcoin, then Bitcoin's going to keep going up. But there's something that people don't consider, right? Everyone always says, this is the most frustrating thing to me. They say, oh, come on, Bitcoin can't go up. When Bitcoin hit $5, when Bitcoin hit 70 cents, my friend said exactly this to me. I said, I could put a couple grand into Bitcoin right now. What do you think? And he goes, oh, come on, man. It's probably some fake currency. Don't do that. You're going to give that guy your money and then he's going to disappear with it. And I went, you're probably right. And then 3 months later, at $35. And I laughed. And I was like, well, you know, it is what it is. And then when Bitcoin went up to $100, a bunch of my friends started selling their Bitcoin. And what did they say? Oh, come on. There's no way Bitcoin's going past $100. It makes no sense. And then it hit 200, 500, 1,000. Then from 1,000, it fell down to like 600, fell down to like 400, even 200 at one point. Then it shot back up to 1,000. Every single time Bitcoin has hit a new high, people say the same thing. Oh, come on. It can't possibly go higher. When Bitcoin was at $3,500 not that long ago, I bought in around like 25. It hit 35, and everyone said the same damn thing. It is the most annoying thing in the world to me, because you have a lot of people who don't understand what the hell's going on saying the exact same thing. Oh, come on. Meanwhile, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, goes on some interview and says, oh, Bitcoin's a tulip craze, you know, the tulip bulb craze. Don't do it. You're going to lose it. You know, don't short Bitcoin. It could hit $100,000, but, you know, it's not valuable. Then what did he do? After that, Bitcoin fell 25%. And who was one of the largest buyers of Bitcoin after he made those statements? Drumroll, please. JP Morgan Chase. Okay? So I'm sorry if Bitcoin has a track record for hitting ridiculous numbers. Very well could just be just like the tech bubble. In fact, I would say it's absolutely safe to say Bitcoin is a huge bubble right now, and it probably will collapse. But after the dot-com bubble, we still saw Amazon, eBay, Google. These companies still existed. So what does that mean? Bitcoin is likely to be the cryptocurrency that survives the crash. Will Bitcoin go down? Of course it will go down. When Bitcoin hit $1,000, it dropped off like 60% at one point, and everyone said, see, it was a bubble. And then a year later, boom, right back up, higher than it ever was. And that keeps happening. So what happens right now if you don't buy Bitcoin? Nothing. You're fine. What happens if you sell your Bitcoin? Well, some people have gotten a huge return on their Bitcoin. If I sold now, I'd be looking at around like a 10x return. But what's the point of buying Bitcoin? I'm betting that Bitcoin has a bigger use in the future, and it makes more sense to hold because it keeps finding demand. There's a reason for it, and it's a very simple reason. People are using Bitcoin to trade money internationally and skip and dodge regulation. Before October 31st, China was planning on banning crypto mining and some other aspects of Bitcoin. And I had a friend say, Bitcoin's done. It's going to crash after this because China's going to restrict it. And one of the key values, what gives Bitcoin value, is that Chinese people use Bitcoin to bypass government regulations and send money overseas. And I said, well, hold on. One of two things will happen. The Chinese government will succeed, and the Chinese people will be restricted in their use of Bitcoin, and we will see the price crash, or the Chinese government will restrict Bitcoin, but the Chinese people will keep using it, proving that Bitcoin can bypass government regulation, and that's going to cause the price to skyrocket. And the price started skyrocketing afterwards. I'm not saying that's exactly why, but the price has been skyrocketing ever since. Will Bitcoin keep going up? I have no idea. What I can say is its track record is that it keeps going up, and it doesn't follow the same patterns as many of the other bubbles. Is it in a bubble right now? I would say, yeah. It's gone up way too much. There's way too much demand for it. But even if it crashes down to $3,000, I guarantee you there's going to be a ton of people who do not sell. The biggest players in Bitcoin are going to buy as much as they can. If the bubble pops, these people who are Bitcoin millionaires are going to buy it all from everyone who sells. There's going to be a few individuals who buy it all up, and then in a few years, Bitcoin will become increasingly more valuable. I bet in 5 to 10 years, Bitcoin is going to be worth substantially more than it is today. Will Bitcoin go down from where it is today or tomorrow or the next day? Probably. But keep in mind, if you didn't touch any of your investments after, or I shouldn't be specific, but people who had money in stocks in 2008, when the economic crisis happened, If you just left it alone, you've recovered since then. So Bitcoin will likely go down, and it has in the past, but I believe it will keep going up. I don't know where the ceiling is going to be. Don't know where the floor is going to be. What I can say, though, is the smallest denomination of Bitcoin, Satoshi, is 1/10 of 1 penny. If you want to buy in, you can buy a ton of Satoshi right now. And Satoshi has the same growth percentage as Bitcoin does. Keep that in mind. Buy low. Bitcoin will save China when their economy collapses, Tim. The majority of their economy is keeping workers working by having them build empty cities. Yep, and real estate is a huge bubble. And because real estate is a massive bubble in China, I'm not an expert on this, but this is what someone told me. So keep in mind, this is poorly researched. This is just what someone said is hearsay. I was told by a Bitcoin guy that Chinese people aren't allowed to trade revenues from real estate outside of the country because their economy is a bubble. If people sell all their houses and then transfer that money to US or to Euro or something else, then that money essentially, it leaves the economy. And the only reason economies function is because they have a bunch of empty buildings and the real estate is a massive bubble. But they're using Bitcoin to bypass this. They're using tricks through regulation to bypass the government. And we'll see what happens. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm not saying Bitcoin will go up forever. I'm just saying I believe, in my personal opinion, I think Bitcoin's going to go up for a lot of reasons. There's a crazy culture growing around Bitcoin because it's proven itself time and time again. There are people who refuse to sell no matter what. And I'll tell you this. If tomorrow Bitcoin fell to $1, I would buy as much as possible. I would buy as much as I could. And I bet you everyone else will too. Think about this. If Bitcoin fell to $1 tomorrow, do you think people would buy? Would your friends buy? Would you buy? Yeah. I'm pretty sure everyone I know would buy as much as possible if it fell to $1, which is why it won't fall to $1. It can fall down to a certain number, but there is a point where people are just going to say, dude, I'm just going to buy. I'm going to get in at this number because, wow, is it low? And that's it. Digital gold, a digital asset that cannot be replicated. People want to buy it. Tim Coin, the future of news. So I actually was working with someone very, very briefly on creating I believe an ERC20 token, the Ethereum-based tokens. And the goal was when we launched Subverse, we were going to have a cryptocurrency that essentially, if you're holding a certain amount of the currency, you gain access to the premium features. So as opposed to Netflix, where you pay $10 a month, with Subverse it would be if you're holding 1,000 Verse coins or Verse tokens or whatever, that will appear in your browser through Ethereum. And our site will recognize that and grant you access to premium features. And the idea is that the currencies can be traded with the company for specific things. We were bouncing around ideas. We don't know exactly how we would do it or what the regulations would be, but it was just, basically brainstorming on, instead of doing direct sales, we do secondary market sales. Like you buy the currency, and then that currency is exchanged with us for services. So it's essentially like funny money. There's an interesting aspect that comes out of that a lot of companies are really wary of dealing with, and that's secondary market sales, which turns your currency into a security. So I think Basic Attention Token flat out says we do not encourage people to sell this on a secondary market. It is not worth anything, yada, yada, yada. And the point is, it becomes a security which is regulated if you allow or encourage secondary transactions. So somebody buys one unit from you and then speculates on it and tries to sell it for more. That's when things get complicated. All right, well, it is officially 11:15. We're about 14, 15 minutes over. If you guys are watching, hit that thumbs up button because it really does help. I think it helps. Engaging, commenting, it's all really great stuff. You can donate in the super chat. If you want to support my work, go to timcast.com/donate. There's PayPal options. There's cryptocurrency options. I'm also on Minds, minds.com/timcast. So follow me there. Follow me on Twitter @timcast. I'll take a few more questions, and then I'm going to get out of here, go to bed, and then more work tomorrow. Holidays are coming up, so we'll see what happens. But in other news, the big piece I'm working on right now. So I'm producing videos every day. That's what I do. But there is stuff happening behind the scenes for bigger picture stuff. And right now, on the back burner, the holidays are gumming up the works, but the goal is to do a college free speech versus social justice kind of documentary. Find we've seen Wilfrid Laurier with Lindsay Shepherd. We've seen the Mizzou. Can we get some muscle over here? We've seen Nicholas Christakis. at, I believe it was Yale with the Halloween costumes, Brett Weinstein with the White People Day. And so the goal is to go to these universities, interview some of the students on the social justice side, interview some of the free speech advocates and the professors, and typically look at, from, the past 10 or so years or 20 years, how this evolution has happened to the point where universities have become about feelings and homes and less about intellectual development. That's the big plan. Brian K says, net neutrality, ISPs to block crypto transactions. Potentially. Who knows? Not sure. But I'll hit up these last few super chats. Ones that I missed. Iwani said Yoda is an alt minimalist. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. But so the last thing I'll say is when the holidays are over, Emily will be coming to New York, presumably. This is all tentative. We'll see how it develops. And we're going to start putting together this documentary, which will be kind of like what happened with Sweden. So there will be travel. I will produce a daily series where we interview people at colleges. And then the goal is to put together something like 20 or 30 minutes, which is a series of interviews along with some explainers. So we'll see what we can put together. There'll be a fundraiser for it, and it'll be a big thing that I'll announce. Either way, fundraiser or not, this is what the big plan is. So sometime February, expect to see a lot more action in this direction. And as we build up to that, there's going to be one-off interviews. So I've spent more time than I like indoors doing videos that are more news analysis and opinion. But this is just because the holidays are a nightmare and people are unavailable and unwilling to travel. It's also winter, so it's harder to get out and go find, street interviews and stuff like that. But it is what it is. So, hey, for everybody who watched, thank you all so much for watching again. Go to follow me on Twitter at TimCast. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit the thumbs up button. Share the videos with your friends because I really appreciate it. It really helps out. Super Chat is there if you want to donate. timcast.com/donate. I don't know what I'm forgetting, but thank you all so much for watching. It's 11:17, and it's time for bed. So, again, thank you all so much. I'll see you tomorrow at 4.